Spoiler warning! For those who've yet to see the film, I suggest you save this video for later. Otherwise, if you simply don't care about spoilers, or if you're watching this long after the movie's release, enjoy. This drink, that I'm calling the Minesweeper, is made with a Japanese whiskey, yuzu liqueur, ginger liqueur, brown sugar bourbon, simple syrup, bitters, light blue luster dust, and black food coloring for the ice. Like the film, I took an old-fashioned concept with some bittersweet elements, increased intensity, darkening over time. To make the ice mine, add some black food coloring to water, pour that into your ice sphere mold, and let it freeze. Once it's ready, in your mixing glass, start with some of that light blue luster dust. Add an ounce of Japanese whiskey, a 1/4 ounce yuzu liqueur, a 1/4 ounce ginger liqueur, a little bit less than a 1/4 ounce of brown sugar bourbon, a 1/4 ounce of simple syrup, and a dash of Angostura bitters. Add some ice to your mixing glass, give it a quick stir to mix the ingredients, then pour it into your rocks glass. Carefully set your mine and enjoy.
Cheers.
Now, if you're gonna want another drink to fully process the movie, Brandon of the Martini Shot has his own -1 cocktail. Brandon?
What's going on, guys? This is Brandon from the Martini Shot, the home of movie reviews and movie-themed cocktails. And it just so happens that me and my good pal Thirsty Thursday Toys are talking about Godzilla -1 this week. I know he's got a cocktail to share with you all, but I also have one as well from my channel that I'm going to be sharing with you right now called the Atomic Breath. Named after the King of the Monsters' signature weapon, this is a sweet and spicy blend of soju, lychee liqueur, coconut water, lime juice, mint, and a little habanero pepper. If you want to see how to make the Atomic Breath cocktail when you're done here, feel free to jump over to my channel, The Martini Shot, where I'm also going to be reviewing Godzilla -1. It's a phenomenal film, and as a lifelong Godzilla watcher, I can say with confidence that I believe this is the best Godzilla movie. If you want to hear my reasons why after this video, you can go ahead and jump on over to my channel, The Martini Shot, where you can also find many more movie reviews and movie-themed cocktails. Until then, back to your scheduled programming.
God, I love his drinks. If you don't want any more -1 spoilers, you can go check out his other stuff until you're ready. If you're past the spoiling point, then let's check out the new SHMonsterArts -1 Godzilla 2023. The package matches the posters perfectly. While some figure boxes have had windows and others have just had solid boxes, this one has a unique spin on the window with it being cut out from that G-1 logo. I love it. Releasing in Japan late November 2023 and retailing for between 13,000 and 15,000 yen depending on your website of choice, this thing sold out fast, just like Shin Godzilla did the first time around. And much like Shin, I'm assuming that this is going to get a re-release and multiple color versions. At least a heat ray version, and maybe a battle damage or a final battle version. If you're patient enough to wait for the US sites, it'll be around $140 in early 2024. One of the biggest complaints about the Monster Arts line is that the prices have increased while accessories have decreased. This guide comes without any accessories, but I imagine a future release might come with a little shinden. Or rather, I hope it would. We haven't seen a beam in quite some time, so I think that ship has sailed. God, I'd love a little tiny Shinseimaru minesweeper boat and a couple of mines. They'd have to be real tiny, though. So, for what we do have, I'm going to try to be level-headed with this review. I'm still reeling from watching the movie last night, but is this figure worth $140? Standing around 6.5 inches tall at its highest spike and almost 12 inches long, this thing freaks me out. Not because of the design, but because of the fragility. One thing I ask myself when I get a new figure is, what would happen if this takes a dive off the shelf? Possible cracking or snapping is not necessarily a deal breaker, but these spines would not survive. They're made of that same thin, hard plastic like the NECA Rodan's wings. And I understand why they do this. If this was made of a softer material, they would bend and droop over time, and that wouldn't look great on the shelf. Another thing that feels fragile, the ball joints. This has some tiny ball joints. They're all still intact, but I have popped a few off, and good lord, it makes the most horrifying snapping sound. I thought I had broken it. To that end, you can pop off the head, and you can pop off the lower jaw, and you can rest that lower jaw on its neck hole, and boom, you have your decapitated Godzilla. However, I don't recommend doing this. These cheek parts are movable, and you need them out because you need to peg in the lower jaw. I bent mine trying to get it back in, so I think I'll just leave it in for the foreseeable future. I'm sure we'll get a final battle version with that blown up head. I mean, we did get the frozen version of Shin with the tail people and all. If nothing else, you know one of the 3D printing folks will put one out. I can also see them making the damaged head from the Jaws scene with the blown out cheek and eye. I am down for that. Speaking of the damaged cheek, you can see the change in paint where Godzilla healed his face. Nice touch. But back to the spines. The way they're designed makes them look like they're already kind of broken, so if any do break off, I'm sure I can glue it back on, paint them over, and nobody would notice. Unless the glue drips over the figure, which you can unfortunately see on mine from the factory. Also, side note, the copyright info is printed inside one of the tail joints. Have they done that before? That's weird. These spines don't pop out like they do when he's charging his heat ray. I'm sure when they do a heat ray version, there will be just new, longer spines. Not sure how they'd engineer all those spines to pop in and out. However, 3 spines at the base of the neck do articulate. They move forward so the neck can fit farther back into the body, allowing Godzilla to look straight up. Those spines also move that way in the film, so for those who do stop motion, this is a perfect addition. And there is a third update to the articulation. Along with those spines and the cheek flaps, we have individually articulated toes. While each toe is a single solid piece, they do have a surprising range of articulation, being able to spread out and move up and down. The rest of the articulation is what you'd expect from a Monster Arts. Ball joints everywhere. Base of the head, neck, sternum, ribs, torso, shoulders, couple in the biceps, elbow, wrist, hips, couple in the knee, ankle, and 17 in the tail. The tail isn't the most posable out of all the Monster Arts, but what it may lack in extreme posability, it makes up for with a lack of gaps. Okay, there are some gaps, but honestly, I didn't notice them while handling it, only when I was reviewing the footage. The camera was at just the right angle to capture them. Now the paint is great, but come on, you might be saying. It has that same thing you always complain about where each piece is painted separately, so some pieces have more paint than others. Okay, yes, this is true, but the coloration on Godzilla itself on screen varies. Parts that have healed have a lighter color, and those parts are inconsistent across the creature. So what may have started out as poor quality control here works in favor of screen accuracy. I really want to display this guy in a swimming pose with some tiny boats, but I definitely need a sturdier base. Speaking of bases, in the film, Godzilla can walk with his tail off the ground, but I could not get this guy to balance like that. So I just folded over some thin pieces of plastic and presto, easy tail stand. I was originally going to hold out for the inevitable heat ray version, but here we are. I hope someone makes a Shinden in this scale. I'm not exactly sure which scale this is, and if you know, please let me know, but all the planes I've seen are way too big. So, is this worth the $140? I want to say yes, but then we also have the Gamera Rebirth that came with a base and swappable parts for the same price. So, I don't know anymore. I'm not mad that I got this, but I have a feeling I'm going to have an overflowing -1 shelf in the next year or so. There's also the Super 7 Ultimates figure coming out in 2024, which I might get just for the sake of some softer spines. If you think this is worth the $140, it should be available plenty in January or February of 2024. If you're holding out for an inevitable heat ray version, I don't blame you. And don't forget, if you're a fan of movie-themed cocktails, definitely go check out the Martini Shot, which may very well be my favorite channel here on YouTube. Either way, thanks for watching, good luck on your figure hunt, and please drink responsibly.